Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely flip how you think about setting workplace targets. For decades, managers, coaches, and, well-meaning mentors have been telling their teams to just go out there and do your best. It sounds super supportive, right? But based on 35 years of rigorous psychological research, it turns out that this incredibly common piece of advice might actually be sabotaging your success. So today, we're unpacking the most heavily validated framework in organizational psychology, Locke and Latham's goal-setting theory. So why exactly is do your best the absolute worst goal you can set? Well, the core problem is that it literally has no finish line. There's no measurable standard, and absolutely no friction. Human beings naturally gravitate toward comfort. We're efficiently lazy like that. So when a target is vague, our best just subconsciously downgrades to whatever feels easiest in the moment. Without a crystal clear target, there's simply no cognitive spark to drive effort or persistence. And the data on this is just staggering. Specific, difficult goals generate a performance increase of 200 to 300% over those vague just do your best instructions. Let that number sink in for a second. 200 to 300%. You can potentially triple the effectiveness of yourself or your team, not by working more hours, but literally just by changing the psychological structure of the goal itself. Let's look into the psychology of goal setting to understand the underlying mechanics of this. To leverage that massive performance boost, we really have to understand what happens inside the human mind when a target is set. It all starts with self-efficacy. Now, we aren't just talking about general self-esteem here. It's your task-specific confidence. Research consistently shows that individuals with high self-efficacy naturally set higher goals for themselves. They're way more committed, they actively hunt for better strategies, and most importantly, they show much greater persistence when they hit obstacles. If you genuinely believe you can do it, you'll pursue a harder target, and you won't just throw in the towel when things get tough. Which brings us right to a foundational conclusion from a 35-year academic odyssey. Dr. Edwin Locke and Dr. Gary Latham proved that our internal motivation is directly tied to the difficulty and the clarity of the target we're aiming for. They found that hard goals actually serve dual functions. First, they direct our attention away from irrelevant distractions. And second, they energize us. Difficult goals force us to discover new, task-relevant knowledge and strategies that an easy goal would never demand of us. Moving on to the 5 key principles, because honestly, setting a difficult goal that actually works is a bit of an art form. Make it too easy, and it's boring. Make it totally impossible, and it's just soul-crushing. So these 5 sequential principles dictate exactly whether a goal will successfully energize someone's performance. First up, the goal must have absolute clarity. Second, a high level of challenge. Third, deep commitment, which, by the way, is often fostered by just including people in the goal-setting process itself. Fourth, you need ongoing feedback to course correct. And fifth, task complexity. You have to account for the learning curve and give people time to learn the ropes if what they're doing is highly intricate. Just think about the contrast in real time. Telling an employee to try to improve sales leaves them guessing and honestly a bit anxious about what success even looks like. But saying, increase sales by 20% this quarter acts as a strict cognitive filter. Suddenly, the brain automatically starts rejecting low-value tasks and immediately hunts for high-leverage strategies to hit that exact mathematical mark. So let's talk about evolving the SMART goals framework. We've all been taught in the corporate world to make our goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. But Locke and Latham's research suggests this beloved framework actually has a pretty major flaw. If you look at how traditional SMART goals map to Locke's principles, you'll notice a necessary swap right in the middle. We need to change the letter A from achievable to aspirational. Specific, measurable, relevant, and time-bound map perfectly to clarity, feedback, and commitment. But that word achievable, that is actually where high performance goes to die. It's a really subtle trap. If you make a goal too easy just to guarantee a comfortable success for you or your team, you completely lose that 200 to 300% motivational drive. Goal difficulty tracks performance in a straight line, right up to the absolute edge of someone's ability. So by setting goals that are safely achievable, we're actively robbing our teams of that energizing stretch. We absolutely must swap achievable for aspirational. Let's move into real-world workplace applications, because it's one thing to talk about psychological theories in a controlled university lab, and entirely another to see it impact the bottom line of a grueling physical business. Take this classic real-world study. researchers found that unionized loggers and truck drivers weren't maximizing their truckloads. They were, you guessed it, just doing their best. But the exact moment management stepped in and assigned a specific, difficult goal, asking drivers to hit 90% of their legal allowable weight, their performance skyrocketed, and it stayed high, block after block. That single, simple psychological shift saved the logging company $250,000 in just 9 months. And it gets better. In a subsequent study, assigning a specific hard goal regarding the number of daily trips saved $2.7 million in just 18 weeks. Let that sink in. They didn't achieve this by buying better trucks or paying massive bonuses. It was achieved purely by upgrading the clarity and the difficulty of the targets. But here is the critical catch when it comes to feedback and team effectiveness. Without continuous, honest feedback from leadership, even the absolute best aspirational targets will quickly lose their effectiveness. You can't just set a hard goal and walk away. Feedback allows teams to course correct. It prevents social loafing, that thing where individuals hide within group work because they feel unmonitored. And just as importantly, leaders have to overcome what psychologists call the mum effect. That's our natural reluctance to share negative feedback. Constructive negative feedback isn't mean. It's deeply informative and completely vital for complex team success.
Let's look at the key takeaways for high performance so you can start engineering significantly better goals for yourself and your team today.
To summarize, if you want to tap into a massive performance boost, you absolutely have to abandon the vague comfort of doing your best. Stretch your teams with aspirational targets instead of safely achievable ones, actively build their task-specific confidence, and stay relentlessly engaged. You have to provide both positive and corrective feedback as they navigate the complexity of their daily work. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question to ask yourself today. Look at your current safe targets. Are they actually the very thing holding you back? Are you falling into the achievable trap right now? Take a hard look at what you're aiming for this quarter and dare to make it just a little more difficult. You might actually surprise yourself with what you can accomplish.